People of the world, hello and welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language. I am your host, Kellen Kautzman, and today on the show, Snapchat reports that 400,000 people have already registered to vote via its in-app tools. Oh my gosh, moving the needle on the voting. Oracle partnership with TikTok set to be approved by White House, according to reports. What's going to happen with Oracle / TikTok? I don't know. How to watch, connect, Facebook and Oculuss's big AR/VR event. We're all going into the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. Celebrities boycott Facebook and Instagram for a day over disinformation and hate speech. Environmentalists and Facebook's new climate change hub. And finally, 15 key performance indicators to help improve your marketing. This is, of course, Marketing as a Foreign Language. I'm glad you're here. Anyone in the mood for an intro? Hey, if you're joining us live, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, why don't you leave a comment? You can do that because I'm streaming live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Just type in Send It Rising on YouTube or Facebook, and boom, you're right here. Subscribe, etc. Snapchat reports that 400,000 people have already registered to vote via its in-app tools. That's a big deal. Andrew Hutchinson, Social Media Today. All links to all articles are in the description. Let's dive in. Last month, Snapchat rolled out a new set of tools to encourage Snapchatters to vote in the upcoming U.S. presidential election, and I will admit that I was skeptical. But according to this article, including registration prompts and guides to assist first-time voters in having their say, and those initiatives have already had an impact. According to a new report from Axios, more than 407,000 people have registered to vote on Snapchat already, with the app planning to launch even more voter awareness tools and notifications over the coming weeks. So that, to me, makes a lot of sense. And this obviously is going to be good for the Democratic Party, given the fact that Snapchat heavily leans in the younger demographic, which, if I'm not mistaken, tends to lean to the left. The data is particularly significant given Snapchat's past efforts to encourage voter participation back in 2018 as part of a similar push to encourage voting in the U.S. midterms. Around 450,000 Snapchatters registered to vote, and around 57% of them went on to actually cast their ballot in the election. So just a little bit more than half of the people that register cast a ballot. So we're talking about 225,000 approximately votes as of the last midterm election. So we obviously have more time here as it is only September. So yeah, approximately 260,000 extra votes cast as a direct result of a push via the app. Of course, 260,000 is only a fraction of the overall voting population in the United States in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. For example, some 138 million people cast their vote, which eventually saw Donald Trump claim victory over Hillary Clinton, but the margins of victory in key seats were very slim. So that really is the question when we talk about swing states. What could this possibly do? Snapchat still has more voter encouragement plans in the works. According to Axios, former President Barack Obama will soon be featured in a new Snapchat PSA to encourage first-time and young voters to register. So I guess the argument that I would make is this is obviously just the beginning. I think a lot of people, it doesn't depend. It doesn't matter to me where you are in the political spectrum in regards to the overarching understanding that you've got like your Fox News, conservative radio, Ben Shapiro's, and then you've got your MSNBC, CNN, this sort of divide we see in the yin yang of politics. So what do we have here? We have new players. That's the takeaway. We have new players via Snapchat, potentially Instagram, other platforms that are having a serious impact on the way that we vote. So there you have it. Now, these organizations can say, no, fair and balanced, right? We're all balanced, and they're not. Obviously, objectivity is very hard to come by in 2020 and in this particular incarnation. And so Snapchat obviously is going to have a left-leaning kind of vibe to it, given the fact that it leans to the youth demographic. Next article, Oracle partnership with TikTok set to be approved by White House, according to reports. This again from Social Media Today. Andrew Hutchinson writes, after weeks of frantic negotiations and a rapidly changing race among the companies looking to take over the rising video app, reports now indicate that the White House will indeed support Oracle's new deal to partner with parent company ByteDance in order to keep TikTok running in the U.S. I think you would have a lot of very, very unhappy people in the United States if we were to ban it. I don't think most Americans care at all whether or not ByteDance is the owner or Oracle is the owner. I think they want their social media platform to be available. Imagine if you are only famous on TikTok, right? Or your best following is on TikTok, and here, the government, for reasons that are kind of outside of your daily life, determine that it is no longer something that you get. I know someone who has, and look, the demographic on TikTok is very young. And so that would be really frustrating if you're like 12 and you've got like 14,000 followers on TikTok. So I get it from that perspective. I also get it from the government's perspective. As reported by CNBC, approval of Oracle's deal to become a trusted technology provider for ByteDance's TikTok will be announced on Tuesday afternoon. Oracle confirmed Monday that it had struck a deal with the popular video sharing app Chinese parent company that, of course, is ByteDance. The specifics of the deal have not yet been announced, but the belief is that rather than taking over ownership of TikTok, Oracle, along with its consortium partners in its bid, will license TikTok's technology from ByteDance. So that feels kind of like a rental agreement, which, if things go by way of MySpace, makes a lot of sense to me. Anyone asking Jeeves lately? That it's believed will appease both the U.S. and Chinese government's concerns, though it doesn't seem at surface level to address the core issues identified by the Trump administration in its executive order, which called for the full sale of the rising video app. Obviously, if Biden wins, then all of these executive orders are up in the air for the next 4 years. So I think this is probably a measured strategy from Oracle and its consortium partners to kind of see what happens here. Leasing makes a lot of sense. They say licensing, that's the term, but leasing tends to make more sense in my head, but licensing is what they're saying. In the executive order issued on the 6th of August, the White House identified 2 key elements of concern with TikTok. One, that it collects data on U.S. citizens, which can then be accessed by the Chinese Communist Party. That TikTok censors, this is 2, information critical of the Chinese Communist Party and could be used to spread pro-China propaganda. Wishama, that is Mandarin for why. At the time, TikTok argued that the accusations were largely baseless. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. TikTok is set to be approved by the White House for a licensing agreement. TheVerge.com, new article, how to watch, connect Facebook and Oculuss's big AR/VR event, a virtual event for virtual reality. Addie Robertson is the author of this one. The 7th annual Facebook Connect virtual and augmented reality conference, formerly known as Oculus Connect, is being streamed online today. That is the 16th of September. Facebook is expected to announce a new Oculus Quest VR headset, which has been widely leaked over the past few months, but we could also see a slate of new virtual reality games, extra Spark AR features, updates on Facebook Horizon's virtual world, and hints at the company's long-term AR headset plans. So Facebook Connect 7 starts with a keynote, 10 a.m., how to watch, a bunch of details, what can we expect? So Connect keynotes typically feature appearances from Zuckerberg, his chief scientist, Michael Abrash, covering the day's big VR and AR news. So yeah, that's somewhat of a big deal. As I've mentioned before in previous episodes, there's a good chance that advertising in virtual reality is going to be a big deal. Strapping phones to our heads is going to go away quickly. We're going to see very lightweight glasses in short order. I think virtual reality tends to be something that people can imagine more easily. They go, okay, I live in this kind of virtual environment, think the Matrix, that sort of deal. However, augmented reality is huge. So there's a good chance that all billboards in like 5 or 10 years will just be blank. They'll just be big white nothings. But when you look at them with your glasses on, then you are served an ad that is retargeted to you specifically. So, for example, you'd be driving down the street and you just bought Chipotle, and then it's like a dessert ad, or maybe an ad for someplace to go take a nap. You get what I'm saying. So, will I live long enough to live in that world? I think so. I think we're going to see that in short order, probably in the next 5 to 10 years. Augmented reality, think Snapchat filters, but for the entire world. There are probably filters that will beautify disheveled neighborhoods. You know what I mean? I bet there will be filters that are like, you can take a house that looks like it's falling apart and just make it look pretty. You can make trees look more lush. You can put augmented reality birds and butterflies in the air. You can have dragons flying around in the sky. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's whatever you want. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how that develops. And then obviously on the VR side, it's just complete wish fulfillment. NPR.org, our next article. Mark Katkoff is the author, Celebrities boycott Facebook and Instagram for a day. A single day, huh? Over disinformation and hate speech. So a small, though prominent group of public figures is taking a 24-hour break from the platform that magnifies their celebrity to protest what they see as Facebook's failure to control disinformation and hate speech. The campaign, hashtag Stop Hate for Profit, is aimed at Facebook and Instagram and has attracted such disparate individuals as Kim Kardashian West, Sacha Baron Cohen, and Mark Ruffalo. All have said they will not post to their accounts on Wednesday. Collectively, they reach millions of followers. Cohen is a longtime outspoken critic of Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, arguing the platform is a publisher and as such should be held responsible for the material on its site. In remarks last November to the Anti-Defamation League, Cohen said, quote, "It's time to finally call these companies what they really are, the largest publishers in history. And here's an idea for them: abide by basic standards and practices just like newspapers, magazines, and TV news do every day." Wow. That is very interesting. I've not heard it put in that particular frame of reference. Because if we did treat them like a newspaper, they would have to stand by the content that is being published. So you could make the argument that Zuckerberg is the owner of the largest newspaper that's ever existed. And it just has huge, huge swaths of misinformation. So from that perspective, that's actually fairly interesting. I like how he kind of broke that down. Quote, "Facebook, stop spreading the hate, lies, and conspiracies that inflame our societies," Cohen tweeted in advance of the boycott. Here's a tweet from Kim Kardashian. "I love that I can connect directly with you through Instagram and Facebook, but I can't sit by and stay silent while these platforms continue to allow the spreading of hate, propaganda, and misinformation created by groups to sow division and split America apart." I wish I could have a seat in a room in Facebook on the team that determines what gets pulled and what doesn't. Can you imagine how many people, how many incredibly smart people at Facebook are desperately trying to toe the line between what's okay and what's not? I know that there are lower level employees in Facebook who literally look at garbage all day. They look at the worst of humanity and they develop some sort of strange PTSD because they just see garbage. They see like white supremacist posts and suicide and violence, and it's just awful. One thing after another all day long. And so there is, at least this was a couple of years back, there was a manual process where things would get, they would get flagged, and then they would literally have people sort of like, take a look. Obviously, our photo recognition nowadays is really strong, but I still think that the computer, when it isn't sure or it makes a decision, you probably still have one person looking at some of the posts to kind of get the AI to start thinking in a certain way, to say to the AI, no, this is actually violent, or no, actually this isn't. And that can kind of help the machine learning move forward. So that process that Facebook has and is doing, I want to say in a recent article I read, they get rid of 97% of content that they think is like 3% slips through the cracks sort of thing. But 3% times, like it would be like saying, here's a doctor who only has a 3%, mortality rate. I mean, it's really bad when it slips through, and I get that. I think both sides have a valid point. Kardashian West, another near constant presence on social media, tweeted, "I love." Yeah, okay, we read that. "The immediate impact on Facebook is sure to be minimal." Well, there you go. At the end of the day, you got to just wonder, is Facebook concerned about the PR problem enough to invest heavily in solving the problem? You might think, or the people at Facebook might be saying, hey, look, we are solving the problem. We are putting an enormous amount of effort and resources into flagging and finding and getting rid of hate speech, and trying to toe that line of free speech. And then, you can clearly find anecdotal items of things that fall through the cracks, and that would be relatively easy to do, I imagine, if you want to. So exactly. So the role in the Kenosha shooting is the most recent example of that, where people feel as though Facebook simply didn't do enough. Facebook removed accounts and pages belonging to both the shooter and a group called the Kenosha Guard, which discussed possible violence, but only after they had received much attention. So, is the algorithm supposed to find things like the Kenosha Guard and ban them? And wouldn't they just pop right back up? You know what I mean? Like, are we asking Facebook to ban the people themselves as well and say, oh, you were involved with this Kenosha Guard group, we're going to ban your actual account? And couldn't that person just create another account? So to me, it feels a little bit like the war on drugs, where you've got people trying desperately to stamp it out constantly, and it just keeps popping up, because we're talking about a human problem. We're talking about a people problem, not necessarily a technology problem. Now, I would agree with you that it is exacerbated by the technology. You used to, if you were a super fringe, violent extremist, 15 years ago, it may have been a lot harder to find a group that agrees with you 100%. And now it's quite simple, a couple searches away. So will we live in a utopia in the next couple of years? One can only hope, but probably not. CBSNews.com, next article, Environmentalists and Facebook's new climate change hub. This is from Irina Ivanova. Facebook this week announced it would replicate its widely used COVID-19 information center in combating another global crisis, climate change. Many Facebook users opened the platform on Tuesday to find a banner prompting them to see how our climate is changing. That led them to the Climate Science Information Center, a hub with facts about global warming from such groups as the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and World Meteorological Organization. Facebook also said it would, quote, include posts from relevant sources to highlight climate science news. The page prominently features a handful of climate facts at the top, including that human activities have warmed the planet about 1 degree Celsius since pre-industrial times and are on track to heat it even further. The new climate hub drew a cool response. This is what I find interesting. Not that Facebook is saying, hey, look, here's evidence of climate change. That's not surprising to me. What is surprising to me is that the new climate hub drew a cool response from scientists and environmental groups who noted that the world's largest social media network could do more to halt the spread of misinformation on its platform. It feels like no matter what, Facebook is simply not going to get any sympathy from anybody, man. It's just, they can do no right. I feel like I knew a gentleman who worked at a local internet provider, right? And look, they provide internet to the Valley, but when you are upset with them, you are livid, right? So I think you all understand that sort of thing. My internet's working, my internet's down. Customer service sucks, blah, 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 that whole narrative. Anyway, I was talking to them about their social media, talking to them about their Facebook page, and he said, there is nothing at all that we can post that people aren't absolutely going to obliterate. He's like, it just doesn't exist. We can't say, hey, we donated $10,000 to this charity. They can't say, hey, look, here's a soup kitchen, with 100 people went and volunteered to. It will just get absolutely inundated with people being like, my internet's broken, and people super, super angry. So you could make the argument that they're a bad provider of internet, and this is why this is occurring, right? Then that might be a fair argument. The point I'm making is that if you have huge market share and you are making a ton of money, it appears that people just have no sympathy for you. It's just not, you can't say poor me anymore, and it's just not going to work. So here you have Facebook desperately trying to put up this climate change information to be like, love us, we're trying. And scientists and environmental groups are like, no, So they noted the world's largest social media network could do more to halt the spread of misinformation on its platform. There you go. Quote, this new policy is a small step forward, but does not address the larger climate disinformation crisis hiding in plain sight. A coalition of groups, including Earth Justice, Greenpeace, and the Sierra Club, and the Union of Concerned Scientists said in a statement, this is a quote, as Facebook has taken responsibility for its own carbon emissions, it must take responsibility to stop climate deniers from spreading disinformation on the platform. So apparently 70% of Americans use Facebook, and 4 in 10 rely on it for news, according to Pew. And because Facebook's business model is based on keeping users on its platform for as long as possible and encouraging users to participate, the company has a vested interest in keeping polarizing content on its surface, even when it's false. That's absolutely true. Misinformation is good for business, he said. Unless Facebook were to actively go after fake news, the information hub would be totally inadequate. Cook added, it's like poisoning somebody and then giving them a brochure on vegetables. Okay. So what can Facebook possibly do in this environment? Look, I'm just glad I don't have that job, because that's tough. Finally, blog.hubspot.com, 15 key performance indicators to help improve your marketing for the business owners and entrepreneurs out there. This is from Rebecca Reserbato. She says, when I was cooking steak the other day, thanks, Rebecca, for letting us know that, I had to use a meat thermometer to check and see if the meat was cooked all the way through. In other words, I had to look for an indicator to see how the cooking process was coming along. Wow. Thank you for that cooking analogy, or cooking metaphor. What is that? Cooking example. Marketing is fairly simple. As a marketer, instead of a meat thermometer, you're going to use a key performance indicator to measure success. Apparently, it's like measuring your meat. Okay. Customer acquisition cost. Lifetime value of... Okay, let's just go over these KPI examples. All right, customer acquisition cost. That's a big deal, obviously. Trying to figure that out can be incredibly hard. So let's just look at an example. Let's say you spend $600 a month on SEO. You're creating X number of blogs, call it, 3 blogs a month. You're sharing those blogs on social media. And year over year, your organic traffic has gone up 25%. What's your customer acquisition cost? Do you see how that's really hard to try to figure out? Did they come from organic? Did they come from paid? Did they come from Facebook? Where did they come from? Was it because your rankings were better? How many phone calls did you get? It's very complicated. So customer acquisition cost on something like a pay-per-click spend, on a Google ad spend, where you install CallRail on the website and you have a recording of the phone call and you can listen to the phone call and you can say, yeah, that person did become a client. You can end up with customer acquisition cost. Or if you're in e-commerce, it's much easier. Hey, we spent X to get this customer in. They spent Y. But also, did they come back? Did they spend again? Is it recurring revenue? There's a lot going on in customer acquisition costs. It seems so easy, and it is so not. Lifetime value of a customer, that's interesting. They often throw out values that are just kind of approximations, guesses, that sort of thing, lifetime value of a customer. For dentists, they'll say, it's like a $50,000 lifetime value of a customer. If you're selling glue, might not be as much. Return on investment, we talk about ROI constantly. So obviously, if I can provide a business with ROI, it really doesn't matter what we charge them. If I'm charging you $4,000 a month and your ROI is $20,000 a month, then what do you care? So the magical money machine is just ROI, right? If you can turn $1 into $2, well, then you're rich. A lot of potential clients will often say that to us. They'll be like, if we can just get, positive ROI. And we're like, obviously this is the goal, So it's a bit funny to me because I do this every day. ROI is clearly something that you have to fight hard to earn. And then once you get there, maintaining it can be a lot more challenging than people would think. Ranking number 1 in search, for example, for a keyword means that you bumped someone else from that position and you don't think they want to get back. Of course they do. Number 4, return on ad spend. Okay, you spend $1,000. What do you get back? Marketing qualified leads. So how many leads you're receiving? Let's read that one. MQL. An MQL is a lead that has engaged with your company and could become a more serious prospect if you nurture it. All right, interesting. Sales qualified leads. SQL. That would be, if an MQL is nurtured correctly, then it becomes an SQL, a sales qualified lead. That's a prospective customer that's ready to talk to someone on your sales team. So MQL, not quite ready to talk with you. SQL, they're like, okay, let's chat. Follower growth, that's big in 2020, obviously. Conversion rate's a big deal. Pay-per-click, might have a conversion rate of 1%. If you're spending 5 cents per click, that might be fine. If you're a personal injury attorney, you have a conversion rate of 1%, but you make $400,000 off of that conversion, well, then it's totally fine. Number 9, website visitors. That's obvious. Social media engagement. Duh. Referral traffic. Yep. Net Promoter Score. What's that? Net Promoter Score is a way to measure customer satisfaction. This KPI measures how likely your customers are to recommend your business to a friend. When you calculate your Net Promoter Score, you'll most likely leave additional space for comments. Okay. Organic traffic, event attendance, customer relationships. Okay. Well, that was fun. All right. So before we summarize these articles, ladies and gentlemen, I would love if you would join us for the live show. All you got to do is swing by YouTube, type in the word Send It Rising, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and then you'll know that we're live, and we are live, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can leave comments during the show, and I'm happy to answer those particular comments. And that's pretty much it. You can also join us on our Facebook page, which is also Send It Rising. The show is live there as well. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, thank you very much. It's been growing a lot in the last few weeks, so we appreciate all the downloads we're getting on the podcasts. Deezer, Spotify, Pandora, etc. In summary, Snapchat reports that 400,000 people have already registered to vote. It's a big deal. Again, I think we're going to, Snapchat could be the new MSNBC. You know what I mean? They're really growing into a whole kind of apparatus that 15, 25, 35 years from now, they'll be like the NBCs. They'll be like the Fox Newses, that sort of thing. So the game is changing. Oracle partnership with TikTok set to be approved by White House. So Oracle looking to license, not purchase, U.S. operations, which is probably wise given the fact that this is an election year. There's a big event. Connect, Facebook, and Oculus's big AR/VR event is today. You'll be able to probably catch video of that after the fact. VR and AR are going to be absolutely gigantic over the next few years. Brace yourself for wish fulfillment via a new reality that we construct. Kim Kardashian and friends are saying, nope, not today, Facebook. It's not going to have a big financial impact. It's going to have an incredibly small one, to be fair. But I'm starting to see this hashtag Stop Hate for Profit as something that could potentially grow from this point. If this is just the beginning, then we could see systemic change in Facebook and other social media platforms in regards to what they allow on the platform. But if this is the crest of the wave, then it really hasn't had its intended effect. Facebook trying desperately on all fronts to appease everybody with this climate change science that they put on the site. Scientists saying, yeah, not enough. You need to stop Uncle Bob from saying that climate change is a hoax is basically their stance. They're saying, yep, too little, too late, not enough. So Facebook not getting much sympathy from anybody at this point. And 15 key performance indicators to help you improve your marketing. Yep, ROI. That would be the main one. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for swinging on by the show today, the 16th of September. We very much appreciate you doing that. Hopefully you'll join us for the live show. When is it? Yeah, you know when it is. 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's the show for today. We'll see you next time.